We shall continue with the chapter treatment of constipation, which we had started in the last lecture. In the previous lecture, we have covered the various definitions like what purgative is or what a laxative is, okay, or aperient and cathartics are also other terms which are used. Okay, so we have seen the definitions, then the classification of drugs which are used as the purgatives or laxatives. Then also we have covered the mechanism of actions and the individual drugs. Okay, so earlier we have already finished with the first two classes. Okay, that is bulk forming agents, and the second class which we have seen, that is the stool softeners. Okay, so bulk purgatives, these are the drugs which will increase the bulk, and that's how they will enhance the GI motility and promote the motility. Whereas the stool softeners, they will help in softening of these stools which have formed, the hard stools which have formed. So to continue with the third class, that is the stimulant purgatives. Okay, now as a name implies, stimulant purgatives. So these are the ones which are powerful purgatives, that is often they will produce gripping action. So they will produce a strong action. Okay, now usually earlier they were taught to irritate the intestinal mucosa. Okay, and that's how it was thought to be increasing the GI motility. That was thought earlier. Okay. Also some of the direct action also was seen on the GI motility. They were acting onto these myenteric plexuses which are supplying the GI tract. So that's how it could increase the GI motility. But now it is clear that the more important mechanism is by increasing the water and the electrolyte content in the lumen by either altering the secretion or the absorption from the intestines. We are all aware that there are several processes of secretion as well as absorption which are taking place in the GIT. Okay, as per your body requirements, things will be absorbed. So along with the nutrients, water and electrolytes are also absorbed, okay, from the intestines. And also there are certain secretory processes which are going on, wherein water and electrolytes are also secreted into the lumen. So ideally a well formed stool is produced, but in case of constipation there may be excessive absorption of water and electrolytes, or there may be less of secretion. So that's how it may result into formation of hard stools, and it may result into constipation. Okay, so all these secretory and absorptive activities can be altered by these stimulant purgatives, and that's how they result in the passage of the stools or evacuation of the bowels. Okay. Now one of the mechanism, okay, which is discovered is that they inhibit the sodium potassium ATPase in the villus cell. So that's how they interfere with the sodium and the accompanying water absorption. Okay, so this absorption of the water and the sodium, it is reduced. Okay, so absorption into from the intestine, so that is reduced. So that's how the water content and the electrolyte content in the bowel is increased. So also by activation of the CAMP in the crypt cells, also it could increase the secretions into the GIT. So also it could increase the PG synthesis also. So this could also add to the secretions into the GI tract. So these are the basic mechanisms of actions. Coming to the side effects. So large doses of stimulant purgatives, when they are consumed, so they will result in excessive purgation. So excessive passage of stools will take place, and that will carry all the fluids and electrolyte, and fluid and electrolyte imbalance can be precipitated. Okay. Apart from that, on regular use, hypokalemia, that is decrease in the potassium levels in the blood, may also be seen. Also, if somebody is on the habit, and if go on continuing to consume these drugs, okay, for a long term, then it may also result into colonic atony. Colonic atony is a condition wherein the colon loses its tone, that basal tone or the contractile property of the colon may be lost, so that the motility of the colon may also be affected. Okay, so tone is basically affected over here. Next is the contraindications to these stimulant purgatives. Now, stimulant purgatives can stimulate the gravid uterus. Okay, so it is contraindicated during pregnancy because it can induce the uterine contractions. So also it is contraindicated in conditions wherein certain obstruction has taken place within the GI tract, subacute or chronic obstructions. If it is already present, then these drugs are contraindicated. Then coming to the individual drugs, under this there are 4 subclasses. Out of that, the first one is diphenylmethanes. There are 2 examples. Basically, these 2 are discussed together due to their similar properties. Phenolphthalein is the first one. Of course, all of you all must be aware of that. It is quite commonly used indicator in the laboratories. In the analysis practicals, you all must have utilized this as an indicator. So, phenolphthalein also has a purgative property. Okay, and due to its indicator property, it will turn the alkaline urine pink in color. Okay, because it shows the color change during the reactions. Okay, so alkaline urine, it will show pink color. Okay, the next is bisacodyl. This is a more popularly utilized drug. Now, coming to the properties of both of these, since they are quite similar, both these drugs are discussed together. So, both of these drugs, these are partly absorbed. Okay, once they reach into the intestines, they are partly absorbed and re-excreted in the bile. Okay, so enterohepatic circulation is taking place with both of these drugs, and it is more important with phenolphthalein. So, because of this enterohepatic circulation, they will produce protracted action. That means they will produce a prolonged action. Their action will last for a longer period of time, because once they are released into intestine, again they will be reabsorbed, again secreted in the bile. So, their stay in the body will be enhanced. Then this drug bisacodyl, this particular drug is activated in the intestine by deacetylation process. That is, as such, it will get converted into an active metabolite. Okay, so if you consider both of these drugs together, their action is mainly in the colon. They act by irritating the mucosa of the colon. They will produce mild inflammation, and secretions is also enhanced. And roundabout after 6 to 8 hours, 1 or 2 semi-formed motions or semi-formed stools will be passed. So, roundly it will take 6 to 8 hours time for it to show its action. 1 or 2 semi-formed, here the excessive purging will not take place, but semi-formed stools will be produced over here. Then the optimum dose, this may also be variable, okay, among different individuals. Okay, so in certain individuals it may be totally ineffective also. Okay, whereas in certain individuals it may produce fluid evacuation and cramping. Okay, so action is quite unpredictable. Certain individuals they show the action, in certain individuals they may not show the action also. They may be totally ineffective also. Okay, so also they may alter the GI mucosa. The morphology will be altered because they act on the GI mucosa. It may damage it. So the mucosa will become more leaky. Okay, so more secretions will take place over here. So also other side effects include the allergic reactions like skin rashes, fixed drug eruptions, Stevens-Johnson syndrome. So such type of allergic conditions may be precipitated. Okay, now this drug bisacodyl, it is available in the form of suppositories, say 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams suppositories. So how they will act is, they will act by irritating either the anal or rectal mucosa. So reflexly they will increase the GI motility, and complete evacuation will take place within 20 to 40 minutes when it is given in the form of suppositories. Okay, so bowel evacuation can be done, whereas it can as we have already discussed earlier, it can produce the inflammation or even it may show the mucosal damage. So that's a problem with this drug. Then next is sodium picosulfate. So again this drug is related to bisacodyl. this particular drug is also converted to an active form by the colonic bacteria. It is hydrolyzed and active drug is released. So this active principle which is released then acts locally to irritate the mucosa and activate the myenteric neurons, so that the GI motility will be enhanced. So after it is administered, bowel movements will occur after 6 to 12 hours. Okay, so after oral administration, it requires 6 to 12 hours to produce the action. Okay, so sometimes along with this magnesium citrate solution, it is used in case of certain procedures. Okay, like say for example colonoscopy. If you need to examine the colon, okay, from the interior, or supposing if the patient is supposed to undergo surgery, so at that time evacuation, complete emptying of the bowel needs to be done. So it can be done with the help of sodium picosulfate along with the magnesium citrate solution. Okay. Then next subclass under this stimulant purgatives is anthraquinone. So these are also known as ammodanes. So generally these are naturally obtained substances either from the senna, okay, that is cassia species, senna or cascara sagrada. These are the two drugs which contain these anthraquinone glycosides. Okay, so these particular plants, they contain anthraquinone glycosides. These are also known as ammodanes. Okay, so that's how they are known as ammodanes. Okay, so they are also known as these anthraquinone glycosides. They are also known as ammodanes. Senna is quite popularly utilized for this particular purpose. Now, as such, these glycosides which are present, anthraquinone glycosides, as such these are not active. Okay, but once these anthraquinone glycosides, they reach the small intestine, okay, they will not get absorbed over here. Okay, so we have seen that most of the drugs get absorbed into the small intestine, but these anthraquinone glycosides, they will not get absorbed over here, they will remain unabsorbed, they will pass into the colon, and here in the colon the bacteria again will act into these glycosides and they will release the active anthrol form from this anthraquinone glycoside. So this anthrol which is released, the active form, this will either act locally, okay, on the intestines, or it may get absorbed into the circulation, it will go into the systemic circulation, release into the bile, excreted into the bile, and then it will act onto the small intestine. Okay, so that's how they will increase the motility and purging will take place, and usually the action takes place in 6 to 8 hours. So it requires 6 to 8 hours to produce its action. Whereas one more precaution you should take is it should be avoided in the breast feeding mothers, okay, because the amount which is secreted in the milk, it can affect the suckling infant, it can produce purgation in the suckling infant. So it should be avoided in the breastfeeding mothers. Now, these actions and uses of these anthraquinones, these are quite similar to diphenylmethanes. Okay, that is the bisacodyl, which we have seen earlier. Okay, so uses are similar, even the purgative action is also similar to diphenylmethanes. Okay, if you take a particular dose at bedtime, okay, the next morning single soft but formed evacuation, passage of stool will take place, whereas in certain individuals cramping with excessive purging may occur. Okay, so action is unpredictable. Okay, in certain individuals purging may take place, whereas in certain individuals soft but formed evacuation may also take place. Okay, now coming to the mechanism of action, how it shows the action. Now the active principle, the anthrol form which is released, it acts onto the myenteric plexus. Okay, and that's how it will increase the peristalsis. The GI motility is increased, segmentation is decreased, and purgation will take place. So also they can promote the secretion into the intestines and inhibit the absorption of salt and water also from the colon. Okay. Apart from that, senna anthraquinone, these also are found to stimulate the PGE2 production. Okay, so this action is shown in the rats. Okay, so it could enhance the PG synthesis and PGE2, we have seen the action on the GIT, they can increase the secretions also. Okay, so this could add to the mechanism of action. Coming to the side effects, skin rashes, fixed dose eruptions may be seen occasionally. Regular use, if it is done for around about 4 to 12 months, if the patient takes the drug continuously, it may also result in colonic atoning, that is tone of the colon, the basal tone may be lost, or mucosal pigmentation, that is melanosis, due to the excessive production of the melanin. Pigmentation of the mucosa may also take place. And the next subclass is 5-HT4 agonist. Prucalopride is the first drug under this category. So as the name implies, these are the drugs which have agonistic property at the receptor, serotonergic receptor 5-HT4. Okay, so it's a selective 5-HT4 receptor agonist. It is recently introduced in certain countries, specifically to be used in women, okay, who are constipated. Now, coming to the mechanism of action, okay, as it is very clear from the name of the class, it generally activates the prejunctional 5-HT4 receptors onto the intrinsic enteric neurons, okay, on the neurons which are supplying to the GIT. So that's how they will, by stimulating these neurons, they will indirectly act by enhancing the release of excitatory transmitter, that is ACH, acetylcholine. We are all aware that acetylcholine increases the GI motility. Also, this mechanism we have already seen under the prokinetic drugs. Okay, so anti-emetic class it is. Okay, so prokinetics are the ones which they enhance the GI motility. By having 5-HT4 agonistic property, they will release the ACH, and ACH in turn will enhance the GI motility. Okay, so it promotes the propulsive contractions in the ileum. Okay, so also this particular drug, it is predominantly acting in the colon. Colonic propulsive contractions are enhanced more as compared to the small intestine. Okay, so this particular drug, it is specifically important in the irritable bowel syndrome, wherein constipation is more prominent. Okay, so the symptoms are quite better controlled with this particular drug. Now, there was one more particular drug, Tegaserod also, which was discovered, but later on it went out of use because it showed the affinity for this 5-HT1B 1D receptors also. Okay, we have seen that this particular drug has 5-HT4 agonistic property, but certain drugs were discovered which had 5-HT1B 1D, 5-HT1B or 5-HT1D receptors also were stimulated by that particular drug, Tegaserod. But later on it was found to show cardiovascular risk, and that's how it went out of use. It was withdrawn. Okay, so this particular drug, Prucalopride, which was discovered later on, it has low affinity for this receptor, 5-HT1B or 5-HT1D. So that's how it has low cardiovascular risk. Even cardiac potassium channels are also not affected by this particular drug. Even QT prolongation is not seen. So this particular drug is quite safe as far as cardiovascular risk is considered. Whereas side effects which are shown by this particular drug include headache, dizziness, fatigue, abdominal pain and diarrhea, which even subside during the use. So these are mild side effects which are seen. Next drug is lubiprostone. Actually this is a PG analog, okay, which specifically acts as an agonist at EP4 receptor. Okay, so EP meaning the receptor which is meant for PGE, okay, E2. It acts through this particular receptor. So this PG analog lubiprostone, it stimulates this particular EP4 receptor. Okay, so by stimulating this particular receptor, it actually enhances this chloride channels activity. Okay, so it enhances the secretion in the intestines by acting or stimulating the chloride channel. So specifically these are used in constipation promidine, inflammatory bowel syndrome. Okay, still studies are going on over this particular drug. And the next subclass under this stimulant purgative is fixed oils. Okay, under this there is one example, that is castor oil. This is one of the oldest purgative which is used. Actually it's a bland vegetable oil which is obtained from the seeds of Ricinus communis. This is the source from which it is obtained. Usually it is used as an emollient on the skin. Okay. Now mainly this particular castor oil, it consists of triglycerides of ricinoleic acid. Okay, now this ricinoleic acid is actually a polar long chain fatty acid. So now this castor oil, when it is consumed, okay, it is hydrolyzed. Once it reaches your intestines, that is specifically in the ileum, it is hydrolyzed by the enzyme lipase to release the ricinoleic acid. That fatty acid, okay, it's in the form of triglyceride, right? Triglyceride of this ricinoleic acid. So this action of lipase, it will release that ricinoleic acid free, okay, and glycerol will be set free. And this ricinoleic acid, we have seen that it is polar in nature, so it is poorly absorbed, it will not get absorbed. Okay, so that's how it will remain in your intestines and it will act locally. It will act by decreasing the intestinal absorption of water and electrolytes. So also it enhances the secretion by having a detergent like action on the mucosa. That's how secretions will be enhanced. Mucosa will become more leaky. Okay, so it can also induce a structural damage to the villus tips. Okay, and secondarily peristalsis is increased, that is motility will be enhanced. However, there are certain drawbacks with this particular use of castor oil. It is unpalatable. Okay, oil, consumption of oil, it is quite inconvenient, right? So it is unpalatable. It produces frequent cramping and violent action. Too much strong action is produced. Okay, so also because of its strong action, excessive purging, dehydration will be produced even after constipation. That is, once you take the drug, purging will take place, evacuation of bowel will take place, but after a few days the person will be constipated again. Okay, so after constipation may be seen. Okay, so that's the reason why it is no longer a favored purgative. No one would prefer to use such kind of a drug. Okay, so also regular use also should be avoided because it can damage the intestinal mucosa. So these are few drawbacks with the use of this castor oil. Then coming to the next class, that is osmotic purgatives. Okay, so as the name implies, these are the substances which will swell and retain the water in the intestines. Okay, so these are not absorbed, but they will retain the water in the intestines by osmotically swelling. They will absorb water and swell, and that's how they will enhance the peristaltic action indirectly. Okay, now there are several salts which are used over here. Magnesium ion salts, these release the cholecystokinin. That's how it will, this particular cholecystokinin, which will help in that purgative action. Okay, whereas all of these inorganic salts, okay, which are used as osmotic purgatives, these are quite similar in action. They differ only in their dose, palatability and risk of systemic toxicity. Otherwise all of them have the similar properties. Okay, so let us see which are those different inorganic salts which are used. First one is magnesium sulfate, which is also known as Epsom salt. Try to remember these names also. These are quite commonly utilized names of this particular compound. Magnesium sulfate is known as Epsom salt. Dose is 5 to 15 grams. It is bitter in taste. Magnesium hydroxide is the next one. It is used as 8% W by W suspension. It is also known as milk of magnesium. 30 ml of this particular magnesium hydroxide is consumed, whereas it is bland in taste. Taste is not quite good, and is also used as antacid, as we have seen. Okay. Next drug is sodium sulfate. It is also known as Glauber's salt. 10 to 15 grams is the dose, whereas the taste is quite bad. Next drug is sodium phosphate. 6 to 12 grams is the dose which is utilized. Taste is not unpleasant, so it is quite okay as far as taste is considered. Next drug is sodium potassium tartrate. It is also known as Rochel's salt. 8 to 15 grams is the dose which is utilized for this particular drug, and it is quite pleasantly tasting drug. Okay. Now all of these above salts, Okay, these are usually in the particular doses which are mentioned over here. This much amount is usually dissolved in 150 to 200 ml of water, okay, and it is consumed by the patient. So this will result in complete fluid evacuation of the bowels within 1 to 3 hours, okay, with mild cramping. So complete evacuation or complete emptying of the bowels may take place. Whereas smaller doses, if they are utilized, mild laxative action may also be produced. Now coming to the contraindications to these salts, magnesium salts, these are contraindicated in renal insufficiency. Then sodium salts, they are supposed to be contraindicated in conditions like CHF or other conditions like say hypertension. Okay, so salt consumption or sodium consumption is not quite good, so it is contraindicated. So also repeated use of saline purgatives, it may result in fluid and electrolyte imbalance, so you should be cautious. Then there are certain drawbacks. These particular drugs, these are not usually utilized in the treatment of constipation. That's because of their inconvenient and unpleasant taste, or it is quite inconvenient to the patient, and they produce watery stools, and usually after constipation is quite common. So this is the reason why these particular drugs are generally not used for treatment of normal constipation. Now let us see what are the actual indications, which are the conditions in which these drugs are supposed to be utilized. Okay, so these salts, these are usually preferred for preparation of the bowel before the surgery or colonoscopy. So if a patient is supposed to undergo a surgery or internal examinations of the colon, at that time complete evacuation of the bowel is required. So that is the condition where usually these particular drugs are preferred. So also another use is in case of food or drug poisoning. Okay, so in that case, to excrete whatever drug is present in the intestines, you can evacuate the bowel. It will prevent the absorption of the poison or that food which has resulted in poisoning. So it will remove that. Also, it may be utilized in case of tapeworm infestations to remove the tapeworm which are detached. Okay. Then next drug under this osmotic purgative is lactulose. Now lactulose, it is actually a semi-synthetic disaccharide of fructose and lactose. Okay, now this particular compound is neither digested nor it is absorbed into the small intestine. So it will remain over there, it will retain water, it will absorb water and swell. So it will retain the water into the intestines. Okay. Further, when it reaches into the colon, it will be broken down by the bacteria over there. So more as osmotically active substances will be produced as active metabolites. Okay, once it is metabolized by the colonic bacteria. Usually in a dose of 10 grams twice daily, taken with a plenty of water. Lot of water consumption is required over here. A soft but formed stools will be passed in 1 to 3 days. Okay, so it is slow to show the action. Okay, so 1 to 3 days will be required to relieve the constipation. Now one common problem with this drug is flatulence, that is, or flatus, that is gases will be generated. So gases will be passed or distension will be seen, cramping may be produced. So these are quite inconvenient to the patient. Even some patients may feel nauseated because of its peculiar taste. Then lactulose also reduce the blood ammonia concentration by 25 to 50%, specifically in the persons with hepatic encephalopathy. Okay. So also the broken down products of these lactulose, that is the metabolic products which are generated, these are acidic in nature. Okay, so they will reduce the pH of the stools. So also ammonia produced by the bacteria in the colon, that is also converted to ionized ammonium salts, which is not then absorbed. Okay, usually the dose required for this drug is 20 grams 3 times a day, or sometimes more may also be required. Okay, so this finishes the individual drugs. Now this is an important point: choice and use of purgatives. Okay, so which are the situations in which you are supposed to actually use the purgatives or laxatives? Okay, and what are the conditions in which they are supposed to be contraindicated? Now all these laxatives or purgatives, these are contraindicated in a patient who is suffering from some kind of undiagnosed abdominal pain or colic or vomiting. Okay, so you need to identify the cause first, okay, and then you should go for the treatment. Also, in certain individuals with organic constipation, secondary constipation, which may be due to strictures, okay, or obstructions in the bowel, or hypothyroidism, hypercalcemia, or malignancies, and even certain drugs like opiates, sedatives, anticholinergic, antiparkinsonian, antidepressant, antihistaminics, oral iron, clonidine, verapamil, okay, or abuse of laxative, too much use of laxative may also result in constipations. So all these situations of secondary constipation, also these drugs are supposed to be contraindicated. So you need to find out what is the basic cause, and that needs to be treated rather than treating the constipation as a symptom. Now the valid indications of laxatives are functional constipation. Okay, the constipation which may be due to some, say, eating habits or something like that. Okay, then bedridden patients, those who are bedridden patients in whom they are just lying down, so they may suffer from constipation. Then certain situations in which you need to avoid the straining at stool, or to prepare the bowel for surgery or colonoscopy or some abdominal x-rays, or say after certain anthelmintic treatment, you need to evacuate those worms which are detached, so at that time purging is required, or food and drug poisoning if it has taken place. So you need to remove the poison from your intestines, you can evacuate the bowel and it will be removed out. Okay, so these are the valid indications of laxatives. Now the important questions pertaining to this chapter are the definitions, all these definitions of purgative, laxative, cathartic and aperients, and their mechanism of action, which we have seen in the beginning of the chapter. Then a question, full question like pharmacotherapy of constipation may be asked, note on the certain classes like bulk purgatives, stool softeners, or a note on osmotic purgatives may be asked. Okay, so these are some of the important questions. Thank you.